Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Bradler.
I was going to start by saying go blue.
We're back, Chris. We're back on a Wednesday, hump day. Put a bow on the media availabilities this week. A little earlier today, we saw Jim Harbaugh and some players on Monday, a bunch of players yesterday, and then Sean Nua and Matt Weiss today. Some good stuff out of there. We'll talk about all that here in a little bit. But first, we have a guest tonight. We are joined by Patrick Nothaft from the Kalamazoo Gazette and MLive. He's our Western Michigan expert. That's what we're going to call him. Really appreciate Patrick stopping by. He's going to break down everything we need to know about the Broncos and the matchup with Michigan coming up on Saturday. Patrick, thanks for stopping by, man. Thanks for talking with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I wanted to ask, I asked Chris, I'm like, do you have any questions we want to ask? You know, what's kind of on your mind? And I don't know, Chris.
I only had one.
Were you half kidding? Were you serious? Since it was your question, man, let it rip.
No, I was serious because, Brandon and I were at Big Ten Media Days, and I've been around him a handful of times, but you guys obviously were up close and personal with PJ Fleck over there in Kalamazoo. And, I think he's one of those guys where you either love him or hate him, but he's obviously high energy. The motor's always running. And now that he's, a few years removed from Western Michigan and Kalamazoo, I'm just curious, what does the fan base at Western Michigan think of PJ Fleck now that he's gone?
Well, I would say that if someone hears row the boat nowadays, you probably get a few more eye rolls than cheers. He definitely deserved the opportunity to coach in the Big Ten. There's no doubt about that. He was a terrific motivator. Just outstanding at getting the team ready to play, rallying the team together. Row the boat is like, a well-known slogan. I'm not sure how many people know the story behind it with his son, unfortunately, passing away early on in life. And he just kind of used it as a mantra to kind of, keep him focused. And he seems like a genuinely good dude. It's nice that he, got that opportunity, but I think people at Western are ready to kind of, put that in the past, recognize the 2016 season for how special it was, but also, kind of move on and, look at what they have this year, which, is shaping up to be, I think, a pretty decent team.
Yeah, Western's kind of been, since PJ Fleck was there, and I before we went live, I was telling you, I'm a Central grad, so Central Western game was always a big deal, and they've had some decent teams. Obviously, you mentioned that 2016 season that was, beyond special for a MAC school to have a run like that. But what about Tim Lester now? The Tim Lester era, a couple years in, he's fielded some good teams. It's probably not. It's not on the PJ Fleck level, but they're a respectable team. They put guys in the league. What kind of a coach is Tim Lester, and what's his persona like around there in Kalamazoo?
Yeah, so I don't get the sense that he's, as much of a rah-rah guy as PJ. I haven't been in the locker room to hear his pregame pep talks or post.
In all fairness, though, is anybody as rah-rah as PJ Fleck?
It's a good question. Probably not. I think Tim Lester is a really good football mind, knows his X's and O's really well, and seems to do a pretty good job of, getting the team ready to play. The biggest nit to pick with his tenure is that they haven't won that big game at the end of the season when it really counts. You look back to 2 years ago, they lose to Ball State in the final minute. They went for two and the win instead of kicking the extra point to take it into overtime. They get stuffed. They lose that game, and there goes their shot at a MAC West championship. The next year, they're in a similar situation, playing Ball State at the end of the season. This is last year now. Had a 29-yard field goal attempt to take a 3-point lead late in the fourth quarter. miss that chip shot. Ball State goes down, kicks their own field goal with a minute left, and wins that game. They've been right there. They've been in position to win the MAC West, I should say. Pretty much the last 3 years, they've been knocking on that door, but just haven't been able to break through. That's consistency. You want to be up there at the top of the conference. No matter what conference you're playing in, whether it's the Big Ten or the MAC, you want to be among the best. But this team has the talent to win a MAC championship. So I think some people are kind of getting a little bit antsy at this point, just waiting for that to happen.
Well, you mentioned the X's and O's and what kind of a coach he is, and there is talent, and they should be pretty good, both sides of the ball, probably one side better than the other. We'll get into that right now. What's the identity for the Western Michigan Broncos on both offense and defense?
So running the ball has really been the emphasis. It was for PJ Fleck. Even when they had Corey Davis, they kind of hung their hats on being able to run the ball, control the clock. And that's really what it was about for the first 3 years of Tim Lester's tenure. Then last year during that shortened season, Caleb Ellaby goes off and throws for 285 yards a game. That RPO offense was really clicking, but they kind of seemed to use the run to keep defenses honest. And then once teams went single coverage on any one of their fantastic receivers, Dwayne Eskridge is in the NFL now, second-round draft pick. But they had some other guys too, where if you matched up one-on-one and didn't have safety help, they could burn you. So I think that, Lester as a quarterback, he set a bunch of records at Western. I think that his, bread and butter might actually be a passing attack, even though he always says the team hangs its hat on running the football. I think when you have a quarterback like Caleb Ellaby, you gotta let him make the decisions, put the ball in his hand and sling it around. I think that they'll have, a pretty good running attack. How effective they are against Michigan might be a different story. But a solid MAC ground game. And then I think a passing attack that could score some points against Michigan for sure.
And then defensively, maybe that's, where Michigan can have some success on offense. Michigan's offense hasn't been super explosive or, put up a ton of points, but I think a lot of people think that the Broncos might struggle a little bit there.
For sure. Western Michigan has struggled on defense the past few years, specifically in the secondary. And that really doesn't look like it's going to change this season. Patrick Lupro, who was an all-MAC cornerback, I should say, 2 years ago, third-team all-MAC, 2-year starter. They found out he's not going to play this year, focus on academics, kind of get that right, so he can come back and play another year next season, hopefully. So they moved to Sean Bussell, wide receiver, one of the fastest guys on the team, back to cornerback. Very good athlete. He had offers from Tennessee and Iowa coming out of high school. Chose to be a receiver at Western Michigan. Early contributor. I think he had like 400 some yards his sophomore season, but then got overshadowed a little bit last year. And, they kind of thought that he would help the team more on defense this season. So they moved him there. And then the other guy, I think they're going to start 2 new cornerbacks this year. Theron Coleman, Pittsburgh transfer. Got a little bit of playing time at Pitt, but never really solidified a starting role. They look at him to start that second cornerback spot. He's coming off an ACL, though. I don't know, not the easiest injury to come back from when you're trying to do a lot of cutting and stuff like you would expect out of your cornerbacks. They have a couple underclassmen who might do something, who might get some time too. But I don't know. You just kind of look at those cornerbacks and think that, if they get singled up, like they probably will against Michigan, because you think they're going to bring the safeties down to stop the run. I think Cade McNamara can hit some chunk plays over the top.
Well, there you go. Well, you mentioned Michigan's quarterback, Cade McNamara, and you also briefly mentioned Western's quarterback, who was outstanding last year, Caleb Ellaby. A big dude, can run it though. He kind of does it all. He really can hurt you with his legs and with his arm. Just how good is this guy? For most Michigan fans who've probably never seen him play, what can we expect to see out of him on Saturday? Yeah,
he's got a cannon. He probably has, one of the stronger arms that Michigan's going to see this year. He knows that RPO offense like the back of his hand, knows how to make the right reads. And yet, maybe Michigan is going to throw some wrinkles at him. I know that Lester has said that, it's hard to scout a defense when you don't know what Mike McDonald's going to bring.
Yeah.
And I think that Lester is the type of person who really breaks down the film and wants his quarterbacks to have an idea of where to go with the ball pre-snap in that offense. There's a ton of reading going on, before the ball it gets in the quarterback's hands. So I don't know. I think that could maybe pose a challenge, but I mean, the raw talent is there. Pretty mobile, maybe sneaky mobile, but just a great arm, great accuracy, ton of touch on the deep ball. He's exactly what you want in a MAC quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe forego his last year of eligibility. Hear his name called at the NFL draft. Pretty good size. I'd say like 6'2", 215 or something.
Yeah.
Seems like a really good leader. You watch him at practice. He's pumping up the guys on defense, special teams, of course, the offense too. It seems like the team really rallies around him, and he, is kind of like the prototypical quarterback. He has some weapons too. Eskridge obviously isn't there, but Jalen Hall is a guy who's 6'3", 185 pounds. So, kind of slender, but he runs like a sub 4.4 40. He can get behind just about any cornerback, and with Ellaby's ability to, hit him with a deep ball, that's a pretty potent combo. Sky Moore, solid slot receiver. And then they're talking about a sophomore coming up who's really opening some eyes, Corey Crooms. Supposedly he's gotten a lot faster in the offseason, catches the ball really well. Coaches think he's really ready for a breakout year. When you have a quarterback who can run this offense like Caleb, it's easy for the wide receivers to get put in positions where they can make plays happen.
You talked about checking out practice. What's that like? What's that like, man? What's it like getting to see a little bit of this stuff? I know you guys probably can't camp out and watch everything and anything, but or can you? Maybe you can. I don't know.
So they let us do that early in the season. Only photograph and shoot video for the first 20 minutes, but then we can hang around as long as we don't, live tweet or, put anything out there in real time. It's a great way to get to know, who really got better over spring ball and over the summer. That's how you can see that Caleb Ellaby is just putting like perfect placement on his deep balls. You can see, which cornerbacks are holding up, which receivers are making plays. It's really cool. And then they did start to limit that access as fall camp got farther along. Yep. And then, they start putting in their installations for like the Michigan week and all that kind of stuff. I definitely not jealous of the situation that you guys have at Michigan, trying to get a view inside the submarine.
I was going to say, Chris, can you imagine going to practice and shooting video and photos for 20 minutes and then staying for the whole time if you want?
Yeah, but then we wouldn't be so intrigued heading into the season, not knowing anything.
Yeah.
It would make our jobs too easy to actually have something substantive to talk about. So
yeah, maybe so. Well, in the backfield, one of Caleb Ellaby's buddies, Ladarius Jefferson. Michigan fans know about this guy. Started off at Michigan State, local kid, Muskegon, big back, but he can go, man. He's a guy that. Kind of like Ellaby. He reminds me of that. He can do a little bit of everything. I know he can catch the ball already. Played quarterback when he was in high school, so he's a versatile dude. What do you think he does against like Power 5, like a big program like Michigan? He's a horse in the MAC, but how does he stack up against other big time Power 5 schools? Because he used to be at one. He was at State for a couple years before he came over to Western.
Yeah, I think you kind of got an idea of that when you saw how Michigan State used him as like that. Touchdown vulture, as you'd call him in fantasy. Just short yardage back in the Big Ten, can plow through tacklers. I don't think I saw him go down, with just one tackler a single time last year. There's always two or three guys that are having to take him down. I don't know if he has the long speed of some of Western Michigan's other running backs, but his pass pro is really good. I think that he could be someone who factors in heavily against Michigan. And then, his backup, might even have a little bit brighter of a future, I want to say. Sean Tyler burst onto the scene as a freshman. Pretty crowded backfield. They had Levante Bellamy back there who won MAC Offensive Player of the Year. but you could tell that he just had that extra gear where he can get to the edge in a hurry. Maybe Jefferson is going to try to run over that edge defender, whereas Tyler will just make him miss. I think he, maybe as the season goes along, might kind of be more of that lightning as opposed to Jefferson's thunder. But I think Jefferson will factor in heavily against Michigan. Short yardage back, pass protection, maybe catching some balls out of the backfield too, because you're pretty sure that at his size he's going to hold up. He's not going to get flattened by some of those bigger Michigan defenders.
Yeah, for sure. Put you on the spot real quick. Does Ladarius Jefferson find his way into the end zone Saturday?
Man, I would probably say, yeah. I mean, if they're getting in the red zone, he's probably going to be the guy. Yeah, you kind of run out of space for Sean Tyler. Those game-breaking running backs when the defense, bunches up and there's not a ton of room to cover. I think that's where Jefferson's going to shine. And, I think Western's probably going to pop a couple long plays over the top, maybe a 40-yard touchdown pass or something. But I think if they do get in the red zone, they're probably going to rely on him a little bit more than the other guys.
There you have it. And last but not least, look over on the defensive side a little bit again. Western expected to maybe struggle a little bit against a team like Michigan, but I'm probably going to say his name wrong. I know I asked you before we went live here, but Ali Fayyad.
Ali Fayyad, yeah.
Fayyad. Okay, there you go. Yeah. Flirted with the NFL last year. This is another talented dude. I mean, he's a athletic guy off the edge, pass rusher, wears that single digit, right? I think he's wearing number 1 nowadays and looks the part, man. I mean, again, doing a little bit of research, knowing you're coming on, I wanted to know what I was talking about. And the numbers he put up and the explosiveness that he has, he could be a problem because Michigan's figuring some things out on the offensive line. There's been some shuffling, some moving parts, and maybe some guys playing slightly out of position on Saturday. So how dangerous is this guy, and is he a pro? I mean, it looks like he is eventually going to be playing on Sundays.
Yeah, he's got a great spin move, he's put on some weight. I think he's probably close to 250 now. He can hold up his own in the run game. He can give you a bull rush if you're not expecting it. I mean, he's probably one of the best defensive ends that Western's had since Keon Adams, who I think got drafted in the 5th round by the Steelers or something a few years ago. Ali Fayyad is the real deal, but they're pretty deep at that position too. They have Andre Carter playing opposite him, another really good player. And then his backup, Marshawn Neeland, the coaches have been talking him up since he pretty much got on campus. He was a very good high school basketball player who, maybe a little bit of a, late bloomer on the football field, but he's 6'5", 265 now, and is very, very quick. Has a great burst off the line of scrimmage. And I think he was ready for a breakout season last year, and then injuries kind of took him out of it late. I think he could be a guy who kind of surprises. And you always want to rotate those defensive ends. You don't want to just rely on 2 guys there. So I think he could be, a big part of Western Michigan's pass rush against Michigan. It'll be interesting to see, what their tackles look like. I think Ryan Hayes is probably going to be back. And do they know who's going to be at the opposite side of him?
That's just it right now. Ryan Hayes will hold down the spot at left tackle, but there's been some buzz that maybe somebody on the interior is a little banged up, which causes the expected starter at right tackle to bump in. That's Andrew Stuber. So he was penciled in as the starter at right tackle, but he might have to play right guard. And if that's what happens, then you do throw, kind of an inexperienced guy out there. Maybe it's a Trente Jones who hasn't really played at all before. Carson Barnhart, athletic guy who played some last year, but that's where it gets interesting. And I know Coach Harbaugh, a couple other assistant coaches have talked about, Western wants to be disruptive, and they get after the quarterback pretty good. They have good sack numbers, good tackle for loss numbers. So, yeah, I'm intrigued. I mean, Michigan's expected to win. I don't know if anybody's thinking upset, but Western's got a few pieces that could, have some success and make things a little interesting. That's the question I was going to get to next. Michigan's favored by 17. What do you think of that number? What do you think of some of these pieces that Western does have, and how do they stack up?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty favorable number for Western Michigan. I think that's giving them quite a bit of credit. I see Michigan probably winning by 3 touchdowns or so. I think it will be close, maybe into the third quarter. But I don't know. I just think that Michigan has a lot of ingredients to make this matchup work for them. Western Michigan doesn't appear to have that great of a run defense. I mean, their defensive ends are pretty good, and their defensive tackles are pretty good. And I would say that Ralph Holly, who was a first-team All-MAC defensive tackle last year, he's very good. But he's kind of more of like in the Mo Hurst mold, where he's a little bit lighter. He goes like 285, but has a great burst off the line. Is really hard to block, but maybe doesn't hold up as well in the run game. I think Michigan's going to be able to run it pretty efficiently, and that'll cause the safeties to come down. Western Michigan's linebackers aren't very big. 2 of them are converted safeties, so I think that Michigan's going to have some success running the ball, and then you get maybe some one-on-one coverage with Western's unproven cornerbacks against a guy like Ronnie Bell or Cornelius Jones or AJ Henning or whoever Michigan throws out there. I think that Cade McNamara is going to take advantage of that, hit some big plays. I don't know. I just kind of see this being a pretty high-scoring game. I think the prediction that I've been going with is 45-21. So yeah, I think McNamara has a nice game. I think the backs play pretty well for Michigan, and I think that Caleb Ellaby, kind of shows some people what he can do. Wouldn't be surprised to see him put up, maybe 250 yards, a couple touchdowns. That's the biggest thing, though, is that they have to protect him. I don't know if you guys remember the game when Western Michigan came in there in 2018. Totally different team, totally different look, but same coaching staff. And every time Western Michigan would throw a pass, it'd be like a 3-step drop, ball's out of the quarterback's hands in like 2 seconds. Because Michigan had Devin Bush and Rashawn Gary that year, and they didn't want their quarterback to get hurt. They wanted to do everything they could to protect him. Michigan, I don't think has those caliber defenders this year, but Aiden Hutchinson is still a really good defensive end or outside linebacker now, wherever he's gonna line up.
Right.
If Western Michigan can keep the quarterback clean and give some of those longer routes some time to develop, I think they'll be in good shape. But I just think Michigan's offense, as iffy as it was last year, I think they're going to have some success against Western on Saturday.
There you have it. Great stuff, great depth, great detail from Patrick. Chris, anything that popped up in your mind while he was speaking there that made you kind of think, or this, I hadn't thought about that or whatever?
Yeah, you know what? There was one thing that popped up in my mind, and I'm always curious for, we the guys that watch Michigan every day or focus on Michigan every day, we kind of have our own take, but I'm curious on the outside looking in, looking at them as an opponent, what is the scariest thing about the Michigan football team from somebody on your side?
Man, I think this year might be kind of unique in that there's a ton of unknowns. Like you don't really know what to expect. Go. I don't think Michigan was a 2-4 team last year. If things kind of went certain ways, like if Ambry Thomas doesn't opt out, Nico Collins doesn't opt out, I think you're looking at a lot stronger team. I think kind of losing those big names kind of threw maybe some of those position groups for a loop. Maybe you didn't expect, Vincent Gray to see as much playing time as he did in the regular season, or, maybe some of those younger receivers, they were hoping they'd have a chance to grow for another season. I just think that they're kind of flying under the radar a little bit, maybe, or I don't know. People just don't know what to expect so much. And same thing with Mike McDonald. I mean, he could be the next great coordinator, or, he might not fit that well. And then, I mean, shoot, you got to wonder if Harbaugh's looking for a new job.
What's interesting is it sounds like, Brandon, that even from the outside looking in, everybody feels the same way about Michigan. You don't know what the hell to expect. I don't know. I think they're going to be good because they're Michigan, but I have no idea.
I mean, there's a couple knowns like Dax Hill, Aiden Hutchinson. They have some guys that can flat out play. It's just kind of figuring out how they're going to be used in this new system. I think that's probably the most one of the most interesting things about Michigan's offseason anyway.
I mean, whenever it's funny, like you'd think Patrick was on here with us every time we do a pod because we say the same thing. It's like, well, there's something, but we don't know. There's something here, we don't know. It's like I've never felt this way about it's almost every position group, like literally almost every position group, almost every unit, almost every facet. You have something, but you really don't know. There's not a lot of proven commodities. There's not a lot of proven players. There's talent. There's guys who have played some football, but oh, by the way, brand new system, 6 new coach. It's just like, we're even like an Aiden Hutchinson. We're like, he's really good, but he's doing something completely different in a brand new scheme with a new linebackers coach and a new defensive coordinator. And is he even a linebacker? I don't even know. I actually asked Sean Nua that today, the defensive line coach. I'm like, how much togetherness is there with you and George Hilo, the new linebackers coach, with a guy like Aiden, who was a true defensive end last year and probably going to do some form of, standing up, hand in the dirt. I don't know. There's just so many moving parts and unknowns that I've never been this anxious to see the team and just see what it looks like and get some answers. I don't know how good it's going to be, or how bad it might look, but I just want to see it. It's funny that Patrick, same exact answer. I mean, I think if you could take the most inside Michigan expert there is, they're saying the same thing. Like, I don't know how you could say anything different at this point. So yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I think this Western Michigan matchup is going to be a good matchup for both teams. You learn about Michigan's passing game a little bit with those maybe suspect cornerbacks that Western Michigan has, kind of find a little bit more about what Cade McNamara brings. And then with Western Michigan's passing game, Michigan's cornerbacks are going to be tested right away.
Yeah.
So I think that's another kind of good matchup within the matchup. And just think it should be a pretty good game all around. Whether or not it's close in the fourth quarter, I'm not sure, but I think there'll be a lot to take away for both sides.
Yeah, I was going to say, I kind of agree. I think it's going to be one of those games where Western I don't think they punch Michigan in the mouth, but I think they slap them a couple times, and kind of keep them on their toes and maybe remind them that they've got to do some things better.
I mean, explosive offenses with good quarterbacks are going to do that. You're going to hit it a couple times. I mean, like Patrick said, will it be close in the fourth quarter? Probably not. But yeah, I think LB is going to find some. Yeah, man, imagine what the narrative is going to be on Monday. But yeah, a guy like Caleb Ellaby hits a couple shots and makes a couple plays, and you never know, man. You can't let those teams hang around. That's how favorites get in trouble. But Patrick, thank you so much for the time, man. That was great stuff. Deep dive into what Western Michigan is all about. Good luck to you this season covering. I mean, you rattled off like 10 schools you cover, so I'm sure you've got a very full plate. Obvious that you know your stuff, and really appreciate the time tonight to talk with us, man.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Christopher. Appreciate you letting me come on.
Absolutely.
All right, there you go. Patrick Nothaft from the Kalamazoo Gazette and M Live, breaking down everything about Western Michigan. And yeah, I learned a lot there. I mean, he mentioned, 10, 15 different players and all the different skill sets for some of the guys. I knew a little bit about Caleb Ellaby. I knew about Ladarius Jefferson because, he came from Michigan State. I remember him being a star player in high school when he was at Muskegon. And it's funny, you mentioned like Patrick Lupro from Belleville. I know him and his coach there and talked to him a bunch of times. He was kind of an under the radar recruit. Andre Carter, I believe, went to Southfield. I knew him pretty well when he was there. Big, long, athletic kid. He always looked like a Power 5 guy to me, to be honest with you, and he ended up at Western. And he mentioned one other guy that I remember talking about and covering a little bit when he was a recruit too. But anyway, it's going to be fun to watch, man. It is going to be fun to watch, and he made a lot of really good points and things that we have talked about before too. I mean, Michigan's favored by 17. We talked about that range, I think, before, where it's like if they win by 10 or less, you're like, oh my God, what's happening? Yeah. 11 to 20 is kind of like, okay. And, 21 or more, you're like, that's what it should look like. And they're, the money line is 17. So we'll talk a little bit more about that on Friday. But yeah, I don't know. I'm intrigued by a lot. There's question marks at Western, but they have some explosive pieces. There's certainly question marks at Michigan, but they're just more talented. I mean, that's a Big Ten school versus a MAC school at the end of the day, and I do expect Michigan to win pretty easily. But yeah, I mean, if it goes like Patrick said, or like you said, where they slap them a few times, there's going to be some cause for concern and some things to fix. Going to that big week 2 matchup.
Yeah, I think where it's going to happen is in the passing game, and I think Pat said it that they're going to be tested. Those defensive backs are going to be tested early and often. I think I even said that in an article I put out about Western Michigan early this week. Brandon, you and I talked about the fact that I think Jim Harbaugh said that they've got 3 starting cornerbacks, and whether or not that should, give us some concern that, again, the old adage, if you've got 3, do you really have any? If you got 2 quarterbacks, do you really have one? But given the way things went last year, I think that if I'm an opposing team going into Michigan Stadium and I'm trying to knock off Michigan, I am throwing the ball all day, every day, trying to test those corners. And I'm going to make them prove they can defend the pass before I sort of buckle down and start running the ball. I expect Western Michigan to do that early. And we're going to get a good look at Mike McDonald's defense and see what it's made of, early and often. Like I said, I think Michigan gets slapped in the mouth a couple of times, but overall I expect 3+ touchdown victory.
Might be the way you just broke that down and what we just learned about Caleb Ellaby and some of the receivers, the speed that they do have at a couple spots. This might be like close to the most perfect opponent you could have for Michigan for the first game, because I
100%.
I don't think they're going to win. I don't think Western can beat Michigan. I mean, it would take a miracle and some really bad breaks for Michigan. I mean, they're a 3-score favorite. I mean,
and it's never happened. I mean, it's never.
We've seen a 3-score underdog beat Michigan before, but that's for another day. But no, but they're not a doormat. They've got an explosive gunner at quarterback. They've got speed at receiver. They've got a former Power 5 guy at running back. They've got an NFL guy at DN. Like, this is going to test Michigan in some areas where they need to be tested, frankly, with all the new 100%. Moving parts and all the new people. So I think it's going to be fun to watch, man. It's only a couple days away now. I'm sure are you having trouble sleeping yet? Are you how you feeling?
You know what? I cannot wait for my wife. If she's probably not watching now, but if she rewatches this, the fact that you just asked me if I'm having trouble sleeping, dude, this has been like the worst. I almost dropped an F-bomb. This has been the worst week for sleep that I can remember.
I had a bad night sleeping last night too. I don't know. Maybe the wheels are just turning too much.
I'm tossing and turning. I'm thinking about ideas. I'm thinking about the game. I'm thinking about segments. I'm thinking about this. It's like. I don't know what my problem is, Brandon. I think I just got,
more slurping going on over there.
Is that coming through? Somebody accused me last time of drinking cheap juice on Monday, so I had to go to the store and
get something a little more big boy.
Get the expensive juice, yeah.
I also love that one of our segments is really latching on with our fan base right here. How about that comment? Brandon with the tie-dye shirt. Oh, I hit the button. It didn't even
this
work.
This guy.
Yeah, that's me. We're not doing that segment today.
What are you trying to be that? You're trying to pull off the Bill Walton there?
But if we were, it might be me. All right. Let's jump into what we're going to talk about to finish out the pod here. The second half is some questions and some concepts and topics that are going on right now as we
Side note, before we get going, I just got to say, watching you do that little interview allowed me to drink a lot of wine uninterrupted. So I think the second half of this podcast is going to go really well.
We're going to get it going. Did I have any I means or talk about? Did I have any of that?
I have no idea. I don't think so. I'm
a veteran over here, dude. Get your notepad out, man. Let's get it right. All right. I think this is good. This was a topic you brought to the table, and I think it's a big one. I hope you do put a story together on this because the player availability yesterday made me really see this for maybe more than I thought, and that's kind of your point to this whole thing. The Don Brown elephant in the room, and just maybe how bad it was, not just schematically and X's and O's on the field, but like what it did to people's players' confidence and their view of their defensive coordinator and their confidence level every week, knowing that they weren't going to be in great spots and that plays were going to be made against them. And it didn't matter how good they thought they were, it wasn't going to work. And we saw that last year. We've seen it for a handful of years against good teams, that Don Brown's defense kind of folded up like lawn chairs, man. And that's why he's gone. And that's why Mike McDonald is in there trying to figure it out. So I guess just what was your thought on bringing this topic to the table and how big of a deal this may have actually been? It's kind of looking like that now as we get ready for the opener.
Yeah, it's crazy because we were talking about this before we hopped on. We were texting back and forth, and for me, it hasn't been like a big story that's come out about Don Brown or the defense. It's just kind of been a steady leak all off season.
Mm-hmm.
You hear talking about culture, and then you hear some of the defensive players talking about, I'm able to play at my weight, and I'm able to play to my strengths, and I'm able to, I'm more free, and I'm able to do these things. And then you hear the remarks from Vincent Gray, and you start to take all these little pieces with culture and schematic and guys just being able to do what they're good at. And this entire offseason, if you look at all of those sound bites collectively, paint a pretty clear picture of what, at least for my money, what's been the issue at Michigan is that, and we've seen it, we saw it in 2018 and 2019 with Ohio State, where Michigan is scoring enough points to be in the game, but they're just giving up 50, 60 points. I mean, you're not going to win a game doing that. And it sounds like to me that what was going on with Don Brown and what was going on with that defensive scheme wasn't just a matter of like, okay, well, the defense isn't working, we got to get rid of Don Brown. It sounds like this was really having a big impact on the guys, knowing that they were not going to be put in a position to succeed. And I think the introduction of Mike Macdonald, the fact that these guys think that they can do what they're good at now, has contributed in large part to the culture and the energy. And if it's made as big of a change as it sounds like it has, again, I go back to what I said on Monday. I feel very encouraged about 9-3, even though they've made a lot of coaching changes. It sounded like it was needed.
I don't know, and I said it just a little bit ago. I don't know if Mike Macdonald's good at his job yet, but if him just being there has already fixed the mindset and the mental, then it's already working on some level. And
Yep.
Who knows what that ends up looking like on the field. But I think you're right, man. And multiple players, and Vincent Gray, we're going to put up a quote, a clip of him in just a second. He talked about even like the conversations and the communication between the staff. He said, now it feels like we're going back and forth. We're talking with our coaches. We're not just being talked at. I mean, these are like 18, 19, 20-year-old kids,
Yep.
man, getting chewed on every day, and I'm all for that. I'm all for coaches chewing on players and being hard asses and getting into them when they make a mistake and fixing problems, with tough love. Like that's football to me. But at the same time, if it's always just being dumped on you and you're never allowed to voice your opinion or you're not involved in the conversation, that wears on you. And Don Brown was there for 5 years, and so he was there for multiple seasons with some of these guys, like a Vincent Gray. So I'm telling you, man, Vincent Gray didn't speak in long sentences. His answers were pretty succinct. They were short. They were to the point. But he had some of the most impactful remarks I think I've heard in a long time. We're going to play those real quick. This is about a 1.5 or 2 minute long clip of the things that Vincent Gray said about Don Brown. I mean, he didn't say Don Brown's name, but it's about as direct as it gets. So some of the things that he was doing and some of the things that Vincent Gray is doing now that he thinks will make him and Michigan's defense better.
Yes, I did. I did think it was going to be a really good change. I was ready for a change schematically. I feel like this is going to prepare us more for the next level. It's going to allow us to compete and make plays on the ball, which is what I enjoy. So I'm excited for it. I feel like last year helped me a lot mentally. It helped me with my preparation for the game. It gave me a chip on my shoulder. It gave me an edge going into this year. And I just can't wait for this Saturday and Saturdays to come. Yes, now we're not just – it's kind of like – I played zero coverage my whole life. So coming from high school to college originally was like the exact same. I didn't really learn much new. But over this offseason, being around Coach McDonald, Coach Klink, and even Coach Mo in the spring, we just learned so much more about what the offenses will bring to us. Learning the game, just knowing, not just using athletic ability to play this game. Now I can think through the game better, play with a more strategic mindset, and just put myself in better positions to make more plays. It's just a lot better energy. It's a lot better feeling walking in the shim. It's fun, especially our defense. It's fun to play. I'm really enjoying the scheme and the positions that our coaches are putting us in. Basically the youth that the coaches bring, they're closer to us in age. It's different talking to them now than it is then. It's more of a back and forth conversations with them more than just listening.
Whoa. That's
Can I
dude.
Can I hop in here? I mean,
that's off the top rope. That is some damning stuff, man.
And you know what? If you are the average fan listening to that press conference, it might not jump out at you. But for guys like you and I who cover this team and listen to what the guys are saying, and you kind of pick up little tidbits here and there, that was a damning press conference about what the Don Brown tenure was. And what I gather from it is this whole renewed sense of energy and culture and enthusiasm and brotherhood. It seems like it stems from the fact that it's a younger coaching staff, so they're more relatable. But B, it sounds like it's a more collaborative effort where players are actually getting to have some input on what's happening in the field. And I got to be honest, when you feel like you're being put in a position to succeed, I would imagine that does a ton for your psyche and a ton for morale and guys feeling excited about what they're going to do. And so, I don't want to make too much of a big deal of it, but when you take all of these little sound bites, and again, like I said, you listen all off season, it just sounds like there was a bigger problem in the locker room and at the University of Michigan than I really think a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah. No, there's no question, man. Some of the things
am
said,
I off base on that, or
no.
Are you gathering that?
No, you're not. And I think, dude, you can call a spade, man. Like, Michigan went from multiple three or four different old white dudes. I mean, old dudes who aren't connecting with these players. I mean, nobody is telling the players to go out there and say, the new coaches are more relatable. I can talk to them. They understand what we're going through. Their age is closer to mine. I mean, you had an old dude like Don Brown, an old dude like Bob Shoop, who wasn't even really around, and an old dude like Mike Zordich. And they've been replaced by young guy Mike McDonald, young guy Ron Bellamy, youngish guy, and Steve Klinkscale, and more diverse and more relatable. There's no other word you can use. That's the word the players are using themselves. More relatable. I can talk to them. I vibe with them. That's my coach. That's my guy. It changes a lot, and it's been apparent. And I think you're right. I think it's a bigger deal than I even thought it was maybe a month or two ago. Because I said there's new energy. There's some new stuff going on. What a shocker. There's 6 new coaches there. Of course it's going to feel different, but I think it's deeper rooted and not just different, but better, like a better fit in a lot of ways. Now, again, I've said this 100 times. Feels good right now. Cool. It's at practice. There's music playing. We're having fun. I like my coach a little bit more. That doesn't make you win games. It helps. It's a step in the right direction. It makes you feel better. And if you feel better, you play better, but it's still not, suddenly Vincent Gray is going to be 10 steps faster and not ever get burnt like we saw last year. So I'm reserving my optimism a little bit, but I love how all of that sounds and how it's feeling, ahead of the opener.
Yeah. And I would just say for anybody out there who, anybody watching who's been in a profession, works a job, whatever, anytime somebody asks you to do something that you're not good at or something you're not comfortable with or anything like that, there's rarely ever anything good that comes out of it. And that's what I've gathered from just listening to these guys. We talked to Mozzie Smith. You hear what a guy like Vincent Gray said, Mozzie was at the wrong way. Vincent Gray says that, he feels more comfortable in this new defense. I just think that if guys feel like they're finally able to play in a defense that fits their skill set, that probably, that makes sense why they're all raving about Mike McDonald, raving about the offseason, raving about camp, and feeling good about going into the new year.
I think I wrote three quick things down while Vincent Gray was actually, one of them wasn't in that video clip, but I remember him saying it yesterday. The first one, though, was that he said, I played zero coverage all the time in high school. I got to college. It was still the same kind of man-to-man. I didn't learn much new.
Yeah.
Bro,
yep.
How can you go from high school at Rochester Adams to Michigan and spend 3 years there and say I didn't really learn that much? That's not good. And maybe if he really sat down and, crunched everything he's absorbed, he might change his tune a little bit. But that came off the top. He wasn't thinking real deeply about that. And that's what he said. I didn't learn that much because I was doing the same thing here that I did in high school. And they did. They played man on almost every play, and the other team knew it. And so I think that's a problem. Then he also, kind of in the same vein, he said, I just feel like I've learned so much more about new schemes and where to sit down in zones, and now I can make a play on the ball. And he said, I'm not just chasing a guy all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that's freaking hard to do. Play after play after play. When that guy knows where he's going and you don't, and you just got to chase him everywhere, all over the place. And the D-line wasn't getting a lot of pressure last year, so that's even more chasing for those cornerbacks.
That's how you get a Rocky Lombardi with 300 whatever it was. That's how that happens. And true freshman Ricky White, 200 yards receiving, and that freaking guy from Indiana who broke his career high in the first half. I mean, that's exactly how that happened. Ty Freifogel was that dude's name. And then the last one he mentioned, and this is something I harp on all the time and something I think Michigan has struggled mightily with, is just putting guys in a position to succeed. And when a player can say, I just feel like I'm now in a position to do my job better, make plays, and succeed, like you just said, it changes your whole approach. You go out there thinking you're going to win the rep, or you're going to win the down, or you're going to make a play instead of that guy. Whereas before, I feel like they must have thought the opposite. Like, damn, I'm going to have to chase this out
dude
on an
all
island.
over. Yeah. And if he gets behind me, I'm screwed, and that's probably what's going to happen because I got to chase him for 10 seconds. I mean –
and I'm going to get trashed on social media. I'm going to get like it's going to be a long Saturday when you're already being put in a position to fail. And I feel like a lot of guys on this Michigan defense felt like they were being put in a position to fail. And so, again, like we said, I don't know that – I feel like everybody has sort of kind of picked up on the fact that the players are excited about this new defense. But to me – when you listen to everything in totality, it really sounds like there's a bigger issue there than I think many people are leading on. It sounds like this change wasn't just sort of like, okay, we got to shake things up. We got to do something different. It was like, okay, this is not working. My players need something else.
I'm all in on that. I think
I think I know where you're going.
It's been palpable. It's been noticeable. It's been very apparent. Going back to Josh Ross and Aiden Hutchinson at Big Ten Media Days and stuff we just heard from Vincent Gray and Eric All. Even Eric All saying the defense is playing so many more different things that we as receivers know what to do now. We know where to go. We know where to sit down in a zone because we see it much more in practice. We understand how to attack these different fronts and these different schemes and these different blitz packages. Cool. Jim Harbaugh let it go on for 5 years. I mean, I'll take it back. 2 years, maybe 2.5. Don Brown's defenses started getting shredded by good teams. That was almost from the beginning. But
18-19 was really the 2 years. Yeah.
Started getting torched by just about everybody last year and the year before. On some levels, at least, teams that you wouldn't think would have the success were having success. Anyway, my point is you still have the same head coach who allowed that to go on. And I just don't know how a guy like Jim Harbaugh, who's football, to his bone marrow, can't look at a defensive coordinator or the relationships between his players and his coaches and see something's wrong. And, props to him for doing it last year. But it seems like, I don't know. It seemed like that was pretty apparent for a while there. Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, the changes were made, 6 new coaches, a bunch of guys doing jobs for the first time. I still think that's an issue, but you got to love some of the stuff you're hearing. I'm not quite sipping the Kool-Aid in terms of changing my win total yet, but we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of good things to look at and some angles I didn't even think about. The whole thing, I didn't expect an offensive player to go and indict the defenses of the past quite that much, but that's what Eric All did indirectly.
Isn't it weird how the departure of a defensive coordinator can affect an offensive player and his development?
Didn't really ever think about it. I didn't. I mean, it's obvious when I heard him say it. I was like, damn, I never thought about that though. He's literally, and I guess that's because when you think of how practices are structured and you're getting ready for a new opponent each week, you're supposed to see a scout defense that emulates the other team. You watch film on the other team, you put a system out there like they run and you run against it. Maybe they didn't do that much. Maybe Don Brown was a little stubborn when it came to that as well. But I don't know. Like I said, just some damning comments from guys and they weren't being nasty about it. They were just saying what's happened since then and what it's kind of evolved into. So I thought that was really good stuff. in particular from Vincent Gray.
That's the thing I want, like when it comes to Don Brown, like I don't know him personally, but from everything I saw from like, the videos of him in the locker room and his, just how intense he was and how passionate it was. It's not a knock on Don Brown, the man, Don Brown, the coach, Don Brown, the person. Just for whatever reason, what he was trying to do here wasn't working. And I think it was apparent to fans for a little bit longer than it was apparent to, the coaching staff internally. But I like Don Brown. I enjoyed having him here. I hope he finds success in Arizona. But man, I am very much looking forward to a defense that shows it can adjust and can show some different coverages and, overall might be able to look like it belongs on the field with some of the bigger boys.
Yeah. I mean, the vision of like Daxton Hill just undercutting a pass, in full stride because he's sitting in a zone that was never even an option before.
Yeah.
It's intriguing. It is. All right. We've talked about this before. I don't know if we've asked it exactly this way. And even if we have, we've learned and seen some different things over the last couple of weeks as we approach the opener on Saturday. What's your number one storyline now at this point? I mean, I feel like, well, I'm not even going to say. What's your number one storyline that you're watching going into Saturday's game?
The defense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody, even though there's questions with Cade McNamara and what's that going to look like and what's the offense going to look like, I think there's enough. We've seen enough to kind of have a general idea of maybe what they're trying to do. We know Cade McNamara is not going to go out and look like Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields week 1. So we kind of know that. But on the defensive side of the ball, what are the corners going to look like? What's the coverage going to look like? What are they going to be doing up front? I mean, that's what, when we're there on Saturday, I can't wait for that defense to go on the field because I want to see what they're going to do. I haven't had a problem. Let me take that back. The Michigan offense hasn't been nearly as explosive as I would like it to be during the Harbaugh tenure. But at the same time, it's been the defense that has been the Achilles heel that continuously comes up short when it matters most. So I want to see how they're lining up. I want to see what they do. And I want to see if the quarterbacks can cover against a MAC school that's pretty good in the passing game.
Yeah, no, it's the defense for me too. It is. I think maybe I was going to say maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, the more popular answer would have been quarterback. The battle there, I mean, there was some intrigue with JJ. What's this new guy from Texas Tech all about? But it kind of worked its way out, and Cade's the guy, and it's been kind of announced and known for a little while now. So and you're right. I kind of think we know what we're getting with Cade McNamara. That's going to be our next question, actually, but. It's the defense for me too, just across the board. What's Aiden Hutchinson doing on a play-by-play basis? Where are you putting Daxton Hill? How many opportunities are you giving a guy like that to make a play? Who are the other defensive ends? How's the rotation look at D tackle? Is Mozzie Smith really ready to break out this year? What's the freaking alignment even look like? Like, where are they standing at? Like, everything about it is an unknown right now, and I'm with
Nakai Hill Green ready to step into that role and be that guy,
what happens to a guy like Mike Barrett who was playing that Viper role and now looks to be kind of on the outside looking in? He's going to play, but it doesn't sound like he's one of the guys at the top of the depth chart at this point. So many things. The cornerback situation we mentioned earlier, you've got 3, but do you really got 3? Who starts? Who are you putting on the other team's best receiver? Is that even how you approach it? Do you have a boundary, in a field? I mean, just everything. I mean, I'm interested to see everything, and I want to see what Mike McDonald's all about. We've heard really good things, but I want to see it. Man, it's just such a big topic. That's it. It's like, I'm curious about Cade and the quarterback. That's one dude, and he's playing one position. It's like the whole defense.
Right. Well, when we talked about Pat, right, or when we were talking with Pat, I asked him, I said, what's the scariest thing about Michigan? And he said, I don't know. I have no idea. And maybe that's the scariest thing. And I think that's it, is like, you have no idea what to expect.
Well, we talked about Cade McNamara a little bit. We think we kind of know what kind of a quarterback he is or what you're going to get out of him. But there was something interesting from this week's availability that stuck out to me. And I don't know if you caught it. I didn't put it like down on paper anywhere. Well, we just heard it today from Matt Weiss, so it hasn't had a lot of time to resonate with anybody. But on Monday, Jim Harbaugh said that Cade McNamara, one of his best, maybe his best talent, is elevating everyone around him. And to me, That's not the kind of quarterback he is. And that's not a knock. I've said this before. He feels more like a game manager to me. Take care of the ball, put some nice numbers up, score when you can score, not turn it over, be a leader, move the chains, play smart, efficient, consistent football. That's how I view Cade McNamara. Maybe that's not accurate. We haven't seen a lot of him, and he broke a ton of records in high school. But that's how I view him right now. Yeah, all of them. That's how I view him right now. And Coach Harbaugh said that he was an elevator. He makes that guy better. He makes this guy better. He makes that guy better. Cool. If that's what he is, then he's better than I thought. But today, Matt Weiss, the quarterback's coach, said, Cade's not the kind of guy that we need to go out there and win the game for us. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, those are two very different breakdowns of your quarterback. Like, how can Harbaugh say he's an elevator and makes everyone around him better? And then 2 days later, the quarterback's coach says, he's not the kind of quarterback. We don't need him to go win the game. We need him to be smart. We need him to do all the things that I actually think he's good at. Being smart, take care of the ball, move the chains, getting the offense lined up correctly, making the calls, seeing blitzes, whatever. I don't know. That's weird to me. So the question is, what kind of quarterback is Cade McNamara? Because the head coach and the quarterback's coach have two different views of him, it seems like.
I don't know, but after hearing that, I have like instant heartburn. Right? Like, I don't want to hear. Listen, I don't want to hear from my quarterback's coach that I don't need my quarterback to go out and win a game, that he's not that kind of guy. I want my quarterback's coach to stand at the podium and say, if we need a guy who can go and win us a game, Cade McNamara is that guy. He is that dude. And this goes back to what we've been talking about with Michigan at the quarterback position, is that they just haven't had that guy for a very, very long time. And then you hear things like what Matt Weiss is saying. You try to square that up with what Harbaugh is saying, and you can't. There's no squaring it. He's either the guy who steps on the field and elevates the play of everybody around him, or he's a game manager. I don't think you can be both. I don't know that it's possible. But, yeah, I would say, what kind of quarterback is Cade McNamara? Just like with the defense, after listening to these guys this offseason, I have no idea what to expect. If he's a game manager, I'm far less excited about him being out there. I'd rather, again, roll the dice with a McCarthy or an Alan Bowman who's got the experience if McNamara is just going to go out there and manage a game.
Let me hold you right there. Last week or maybe Monday, whatever, we had a question. Are you excited about Cade McNamara being the quarterback? And we both said no. I mean, and not in a like, he shouldn't be playing or somebody else would be better. It's just the cloth that he's cut from, and what I feel like I've seen is closer to what Matt Weiss said.
Sure.
We don't need him to win the game. He's going to be good. He's going to do this well. He's going to do that well. It's not the elevator kind of guy where, he's elite at everything, and you suddenly have a receiver who only needs a half a step instead of 2 full steps, because that quarterback's going to put it on him with timing and with zip and with accuracy. And I don't know. I mean, he did some really good things against Rutgers for a couple quarters, and then he was less than pedestrian against Penn State, 12 of 25 for 91 yards and no touchdowns in over 3 quarters of play. I don't know. That's not elevator status to me. That's not even a game manager to me at that point. I mean, you gotta put some numbers up and make things happen when they're presented to you. So,
but do you want to hear that from your quarterback's coach?
I don't. As soon as he said it, I was like, "Whoa, dude, really?"
I'd rather have a high risk, high reward guy out there who's gonna just sling it all over the field or take some chances or try to make something happen on the football field than a game manager. I can't do a 12-game season with a dude just kind of trying to get by. And that's kind of where I'm at. I hope Matt Weiss was
paging Joe Milton. Well,
that's and we're gonna find out tomorrow night, right? Tomorrow night, Tennessee plays. You get to see, you get your first look at Joe Milton in the SEC and, against Bowling Green. So maybe you won't get, too much out of it. But again, in today's college football, the last thing you want is a game manager at the quarterback position. And you and I had this conversation during the offseason. And I think I had even said I view Cade McNamara as more of a game manager. And you were distraught at the idea of having a game manager. And the more I think about it, the more I'm in the same boat. Like, I don't want a dude who's just out there trying to like get by. I want a guy that's out there making plays. If he makes mistakes, fine, but I want a playmaker at that position. I think you need one to win a championship.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's where I'm at too. That's why I said that comment was a little alarming, and it wasn't made to be like a big deal. He just kind of said it. But I caught it, and I was like, that's a lot different than what Jim Harbaugh said on Monday. That doesn't seem to add up. That doesn't seem to add up. So anyway, all right, last thing. We'll finish out with this question. I was on the M Zone earlier today with Jamie Morris, my guy Miz. Love those dudes over there. I'm going to be on with them every Wednesday. And one of the questions that they pitched to me, and I struggled with it at first, but then kind of some of the stuff we just talked about made me come to an answer. So here's the question, Chris. If you could pick one of Michigan's units, the offense or the defense, to finish the year in the top 10 in the country, which one would you pick? It's tough. It's tough because both units have been not near that number over the last couple of seasons.
I mean, I'm going defense.
Interesting. Okay.
Just because the offense has been so lackluster, it just looks like it always looks like it's stuck in mud. And we've had multiple conversations where, I've told you, like, I turn off a Michigan game in the fall and then I flip over to CBS and I watch two SEC teams battle it out and just chuck the ball down the field.
Sport.
It looks like a different sport. So until they can prove that they can move the ball, Michigan has always been good defensively. Now they've fallen apart when it matters most, but I think in terms of which two groups have the best chance of finishing top 10 defensively, for sure.
If I could pick one, maybe I missed, maybe you didn't take the question is how I meant it. I was asking if you could, not which one do you think is more likely, but which one would you pick? Like if you could say Michigan's offense is going to be amazing top 10 or Michigan's defense is going to be amazing top 10, which one would you prefer? For me, it's offense.
Which one would I prefer?
Yes. For me,
I would prefer the offense.
Yes, for me, it's the offense. I think in today's world of college football, you have to score points. I mean, when you look at the best teams in the country, you take an Alabama versus a Clemson or an Ohio State versus Clemson, they score a ton of points. Like, you could have the best defense in the country. You're not keeping the best offenses in the country down. They're going to score. Just like I expect to see Western score a couple times on Saturday, even though they're not as talented. Like, the rules are such that the quarterbacks can go off a little bit. You got some speed here and there, the schemes nowadays, the motion, all that stuff. Offenses, it's made to be exciting on offense. So I think in order for a team to compete, you got to be able to score. And so
and it's more exciting to watch.
Yeah, it's better to watch.
Like you as a spectator, you want to watch points put on the board. So if I had to choose which one I'd want to see in the top 10, I want to see a Michigan offense in the top 10. And I don't know if you looked at this. I don't even know when the last time a Michigan offense finished in the top 10 was. Do you have any idea?
I could look while we're thinking about it right now.
It hasn't been it couldn't have been in the Harbaugh era. Could not.
Oh, no. No way. There's no way. Top 10 total offense 2020 Michigan, certainly not there. 2019 I'm on the search for Michigan. Total offense Michigan 68th in the country in 2019. In 2018 Michigan was 50th. In 2017 Michigan was 105th in the country.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. So in 2017, Michigan was 107th in the country in offense, right?
Correct.
Were they not in a position to beat Ohio State in the final game?
That was 2016. 2016, they were 58th.
2017, wasn't it O'Korn that dropped back and threw that deep interception? It would have been a game-winning drive if Michigan could have. So that's what I'm saying, man. Like, this offense has been so bad.
Michigan, 2015, they were 69th in the country.
Bottom half of college football every year.
2014, they were 115th in the country. Like, dude, are you kidding me? How does
every year you've put out has been bottom half of college football?
2013, Michigan was 87th in the country in offense.
See, this is making me sick. How does this happen? How does that happen?
In 2012, Michigan was 79th in the country in total offense. In 2011, Michigan was 42nd. So
solid
top
year.
10. Forget top 10. They haven't been in the top 50 since 2011. That's crazy.
And for a Power 5 program like the University of Michigan, how the hell does that happen? So if you look at Jim Harbaugh's tenure, 3 10-win seasons, 1 9-win season, and an offense every year that can't finish in the top half of college football. If you get a productive offense, if you get some playmakers, that 10 and 9-win season easily becomes 11 and 10. That's how you get over the hump.
Man, I never really looked at it like that. That is bad.
My goodness, man.
That is bad.
It has been painful to watch.
That's unfortunate. That is unfortunate.
2013, you said? Haven't been in the top 50?
2011.
2011. All right, there's an article right there.
They were 42nd in the country in 2000. That was yards per game. I mean, too, there's different metrics.
Whatever.
Scoring, points per game, things like that. But yeah, I mean, moving the ball up and down the field. And honestly, people could nitpick that and say, like, well, that's a specific stat. But like, yeah, but you're really bad at that specific stat every year. Like
moving the ball is pretty important.
That's a problem. Well, there you have it, man. I really liked learning about Western. I didn't know that much about them. I mean, I put together a little article today, knowing the enemy, 3 players to watch, a strength on defense, a strength on offense, a prediction, a blurb on how the game might play out. And then we took it to another level a little bit ago with Patrick Nothaff from the Kalamazoo Gazette and M Live. So really good stuff there. Chris, we will be back on Friday on the eve of Michigan football kicking off the 2021 season. I know you're getting excited, man. I know you're getting excited. I'm trying to see if there's anything we need to talk about real quick from the commenters. I didn't see any hard-hitting questions.
Can I just say that Quinn Ewers signed a $1.4 million deal? Left high school early, on
to
campus
go to
Ohio State. $1.4 million. He should be in high school right now, but that's all right.
To sign autographs for 3 years. And I saw some people kind of being like, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Dude, if he ends up being good at Ohio State, like top 5 pick, good like Justin Fields and a Heisman candidate, they got homeboy on the cheap.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there is an alternative to where maybe he fizzles out and gets
it's like anything else.
Off the team or something. Yeah,
it's a gamble. It's a business gamble. Yeah.
You're hoping for a big return on your investment. That's what you're doing with that. And yeah, I mean, and it's not Ohio State doing it. So what's your complaint? I mean, you're going to go after that random company and be like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, man, you asked me if we should talk about NIL stuff again. And I'm like, bro, I say the same thing every time we bring it up. What's Michigan doing? Look at everyone else kicking ass. Why? Well,
1.4 mil.
Yeah.
Dude's like 17.
It's a lot of Cronkites, man.
Yeah.
That's some good money. There you have it. We'll be back on Friday night. We have some more segments that we're going to get into.
Oh, wait. Before we
big announcement. Hold on.
Big announcement. Breaking news.
Let me roll the music down a little bit. Don't
hop off yet. So Friday, Brandon had mentioned it. It's Michigan Football Eve on Friday, and we're going to be making some picks for the Big Ten, but honestly, we had to do it big. We had to have a big guest picker on, and so we're going to welcome Jalen Mayfield. He's with the Atlanta Falcons. He's battling for that starting position out there. We're going to ask him about how life in the NFL is going, what he thinks about Michigan football heading into 2021, and honestly, I'm going to ask him what's his honest opinion on the Killers and Mr. Brightside. He's safe now from the Michigan mob, the crazy fanatics out there. He can speak his mind and be safe.
He's down in Hotlanta, bro.
They ain't touching him in Hotlanta.
They're not playing Mr. Brightside down there at the Benz arena, whatever that stadium's called, Mercedes-Benz. What is that place called? Mercedes-Benz Stadium? Might just be Stadium. I don't know. Anyway, that place is awesome, by the way. I went to a Rivals camp there before I finished up at the Wolverine, man. That place is a spectacle. Did I just really flub that word? Spectacle.
That's all right.
It's a spectacle. We'll be back Friday. It'll be Michigan Football Eve. We will get into the specifics of the game. We'll give our picks. We'll do some other picks. We'll talk some other funny stuff. And then, dude, Saturday morning, we'll park the car. We'll walk to the big house. We're going to watch some Michigan football on Saturday, man. We'll be back on Friday. Thanks everybody for listening.